All right, and we're live. Before I start this podcast off, I want to send out prayers to the Gibbs family. Uh, Coy Gibbs, the father of Ty Gibbs, passed away this weekend on Sunday at the championship race in Phoenix, and I would just like to offer my condolences. So, rest in peace, Coy Gibbs. He was 49 at the time of his death, and prayers to the Gibbs family again. So, welcome back to the Left Lane Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Irvin, here with the latest news and drama out of the NASCAR sport as the 74th NASCAR Cup Series season has concluded this past weekend. The champions from the top three echelons of the NASCAR Cup Series, the Truck Series, the Xfinity, and the Cup Series have been crowned. So Friday we started off with crowning Zane Smith as our champion, and he was the only one that I had three picks to win who I wanted to win. I wanted Zane Smith, anyone but Gibbs, and anyone but Logano. So everybody this weekend, almost everyone this weekend was pretty much a anybody but the ones who I didn't want to win did win, but I'm gonna get to that in a second. So yeah, Zane Smith is the 2022 Truck Series Championship. One of the more memorable things or rather forgotten things this year was filling in for Chris Buescher, who was out with COVID-19 during the Gateway race at St. Louis, Illinois this past year. There's two St. Louis's, one in Illinois, one in Missouri. It's split down the middle, but they raced on the Illinois side, and Zane Smith got a top 20 finish in his first ever Cup Series start. So, a decent equipment, a top 20 finish is considered pretty good for someone with zero experience. And yeah, that's all I can really have for the Truck Series. It was pretty entertaining, but mostly it was Zane Smith up front tonight, and third time's the charm for him, capturing the elusive Truck Series championship. But Saturday's race was again like one where a guy won it all and then lost it all. After a controversial race 2 weeks back with him dumping his teammate, with Ty Gibbs dumping his teammate Brandon Jones, Ty Gibbs has been crowned the Xfinity Series champion despite a charging Noah Gragson. Gregson was not able to capitalize on it. The man with the most wins this season, 8, was not able to capitalize as Ty Gibbs ran away with the title and became the dominant man all night. And obviously, the next day he lost his father and the son of Joe Gibbs. And it's been a turntables for a lot of driver personalities since I know Ty Gibbs was a really polarizing figure the last couple weeks or pretty much a lot of the season. But I think he's going to be racing with the heart in his sleeve since he probably achieved one of the greatest things in his life, but of course had to go through one of the most tragic things in life. And it's become a really sad situation. So he was not in the car for the Cup Series on Sunday. Daniel Hemrick filled in for the final race. And speaking of Cup drivers, the majority of the season finale 500 for the Cup Series was dominated by Joey Logano for the entire day. And it was the same thing as Saturday. It said there was a charging rush. Chastain and Elliott had gone to a scuffle, and Elliott had tapped the inside wall and made his steering wheel 180 degrees, which means they bent the front toe link on his car, and that pretty much ended his championship hopes. The first missing ring moment for Chase Elliott in 2022 being the guy to beat all year long, and then probably I wouldn't say fumble it, but I'd say contacting it and then losing it at the end. And Christopher Bell managed to fumble it too. Everybody pretty much tried to charge Logano for the lead. A few got past, but they weren't able to hold on for long. And then Joey Logano once again ran away with the title. And a lot of records were set or broken this weekend. So Joey Logano is now one of 17 drivers to win multiple Cup Series champions. He is along with Kyle Busch, he is the only other multi-champion driver in the field. I don't think I mentioned it earlier, but Penske won the IndyCar championship back in September or October, and Roger Penske becomes the first owner to win a IndyCar and a NASCAR Cup Series championship all within the same year. And it's also the first time in NASCAR Cup Series history where a driver's number, the 22, won on the year or the last two digits of a year. So that's why the title for this podcast is 22 in 22 because Joey Logano drives a 22 and obviously the year is 2022. And yeah, so that's our season. And going back to Logano, I think it's time that we like embrace Joey Logano as a loving and figure. The championship this year was a little bit apathetic since there wasn't really much marketing and hype around the championship this year. So that's why I kind of like a lot of people refer to Joey Logano as the apathetic champion. But overall, I think the champion. I remember like how I would always criticize Joey Logano and would hate on him, and most of that bias came from being a William Byron fan who got knocked out of the way from by him earlier this year. But other than that, I don't really see anything wrong with Joey Logano. In terms of, I think the championships have matured him to a different level where he's not acting childish or trying to make smug remarks towards other drivers. And overall, what really brought out what the more sympathetic side of me to Joey Logano was he's a family man. I remember watching the post race coverage and when he was hoisting the championship trophy, when he was celebrating, it was with his son. And most of the race or most of the year was promised that he was going to win a championship in front of his son. The last time he won a championship, his son was an infant, and I think Hudson, who is Joey Logano's son, got to witness his father win a second championship, and it just meant a lot to the family. I could tell from Logano's eyes, his wife's eyes, and obviously Hudson's eyes that this really meant a lot. And another thing to add is that Joey Logano, I think, is one of, if not the only drivers to win the very first race of the season, which was the LA Clash, and then the second race of the season, or in the last race of the season, which was obviously the season finale 500. And yeah, that's our season right there. The driver who won in the beginning won in the end. Obviously, there was some heated moments that were considered controversial, but overall, really good season with the next gen car. A lot of criticisms with the car in terms of safety, but I'm praying to God that they get sorted out and that what happened to Kurt Busch, Alex Bowman does not happen again, considering that Kurt Busch's career was literally ended the moment the back of his car slid into that wall of Pocono. But in other news, I said last week that a partnership between Petty GMS and Jimmy Johnson for Jimmy to be an owner driver once again part time was coming into play, and that was being finalized, and they confirmed that this weekend. So yeah, Jimmy Johnson is now a part owner and will be a little bit of a owner driver of Petty GMS, and a lot of the development that's happening with Johnson is similar to what happened to Jeff Gordon. Racing for Hendrick and becoming the VP of Hendrick Motorsports, and that led to it's what linked to a new renaissance for Hendrick Motorsports with Larson and Elliott being who have won 2 out of the last 3 championships, and William Byron, who was in the round of 8, and then Alex Bowman, who's considered one of the dark horses of Hendrick Motorsports and a really underrated guy, good, heartfelt, like working your way up story in a sense. And overall, with Noah Gragson being moved up to the Cup Series, he already has 18 starts, and I think where the real adjustment period for a driver that comes into the Cup Series comes after the whole adjustment period is finished after 72 starts, and Gregson already has 18 of them. He raced for Colleague, and then he got a little bit of a taste of what Hendrick equipment was like filling in for Alex Bowman, and Gregson's become one of those personalities where at first he was hated. Over time, he kind of aged like fine wine to a point where respect him, and he's rowdy, he's obviously talented, he's young, he wears his emotions on his sleeves for I'd say perfectly a perfectly good amount, not too much to where it's interfering with his craft, but Noah Gragson is a generational talent, and I think that Petty GMS is gonna groom him for Alex Bowman because Bowman's still relatively young. He's, I think, believe 29 or 30 years old, but, you know, Bowman's not gonna be around forever. I know he's been with contracts and stuff. I think maybe next year, if the concussion gets too much for him, then he leaves the Cup Series and maybe they move Gragson up because this happened similar with Christopher Bell. Ended up in a seat with like the D tier, Levine Family Racing. Levine Family Racing shut down. Then Joe Gibbs moved Christopher Bell up to Joe Gibbs Racing in 2021, and the rest is history. But with Eric Jones really helping Petty GMS make a comeback, and Jimmy Johnson being there, like obviously he's a great resource, talent, 7-time champion. He could bring some sponsorship with Carvana if he moves to when he runs his part-time schedule. And obviously we got the generational talent, Noah Gragson, racing against Ty Gibbs. So it was going to be a little bit interesting to see how the chemistry between the two of them is going to work out, since Gragson was really vocal towards the end after Martinsville about him not liking Ty Gibbs and the championship race, obviously. So, it's really going to be interesting since the whole Kyle Busch moving to RCR really shook the lineup, and the obviously predictions of what's going to happen in 2023. And yeah, and 2023 will be the 75th anniversary of NASCAR, 75 years of stock car racing, across, not just the United States, but Mexico, Canada, Japan. They got the Euro Series over, and obviously Europe. I already said the Mexico Series, but we ran a couple of races in Suzuka, which is a circuit in Suzuka, Japan. That's why I said Japan, obviously. But yeah, so what's the plan now that the season's over? I'll be in the studio every now and then. I'll scale it back a little bit since the season's over. If there's any drama, I'll obviously cover it. I'll probably deliver a little bit of the Formula One World Championship too, considering that's really the only motorsport that's still going. IndyCar's over, NASCAR's over, and also my rugby season is over. So yeah, I'll be in the studio periodically, and I will update you guys with what happens in the motorsport world. So thank you for watching, and until next time, have a good one.